be like, you know, CSI and
Irish.
Law and Order. We're like two shows. So our second reader is Michael Noll. Michael is a program director for the Writers League of Texas and editor of the Craft of Writing blog, Read to Write Stories. His book, In the Beginning, Middle, and End, A Field Guide to Writing Fiction, will be published by A Strange Object in 2017. His stories have appeared or are forthcoming in American Short Fiction, Chattahoochee Review, Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine, Indiana Review, and The New Territory. His story, which is the one we're featuring tonight, The Tank Yard, is included in the Best American Mystery Stories 2016. Please join me in welcoming Michael.
I feel like I should add to my bio that, like the character in Ashish's novel, I am 36 with too much gray hair on my side. My children have started calling me Grandpa because they think it's funny. So I can identify. So this is a short story. It takes place in rural Kansas, where I'm from. I'm just going to start in the middle, but what you need to know is that it's about a 19-year-old kid who, with his best friend, have started selling meth, which is something that happened when I was growing up in rural Kansas. It takes place in like the late 80s, early 90s, roughly, when meth was a thing, but it wasn't the sort of horror that we've all sort of come to know it as. He's got part-time jobs, sort of delivering pizza and newspapers and selling vacuums door to door. That's all just a cover for his real job. Rob and I had gotten into the meth business together when we were 17. For a long time, he'd lived with his grandmother, a brittle old woman who threw saltines at you when you walked in front of her soaps. When she died, Rob stayed in the house and nobody thought much of it. In those days, a 16-year-old could be his own guardian. So he dropped out of school and spent the day dreaming up bad ideas. I was still in school, a B2C student, but vice president of the business club, which is where I picked up the lingo. I'd go up to kids between classes, shake their hands, and say, "I'd like to discuss an opportunity with you." Or, "Have you considered investment plans for your hard-earned cash?" The language caught on. There's no thrill like euphemisms that teachers don't understand. Mission creep and hostile takeover. We'd do the deals after school in somebody's house, and eventually I've expanded the market. I'd go out, find the worst houses, and knock on the door, unlock my briefcase, pull out a small amount of crystal, and say, "Try this." Because we had a surplus, we didn't need to cut it. If this is detergent, they'd say, "You know I'm going to kill you, right?" Then they'd snort it and their eyes would roll back. "Exactly," I'd say. "Now I'd like to discuss an opportunity with you." Afterward, Rob and I would throw our money in the air and hump the furniture and walls. That last part was his thing, his trademark. He came up with it before he dropped out, and he stuck with it for a couple of years, humping the lab and the propane tanks full of stolen anhydrous, the Maxwell house can where he kept his money. Sometimes he'd hump me, and I'd have to push him off. "Rob, you know they put dogs down for that." He'd laugh and laugh. He was a funny guy. He didn't take showers a lot, didn't eat regular meals, didn't wear shoes. He picked at the dead skin on his heel while the lab bubbled away. He didn't go out in the world, and so seeing him was like seeing a fox. You stopped what you were doing and watched until he was gone. I'd be delivering meth, and guys would ask, "Who cooks this stuff? You or that filthy partner of yours?" And I'd say, "Oh, look, it's the world's first fussy addict." I knew they'd fork over the cash. Even if I'd said that the stuff they were storing had little bits of dead skin mixed in, they'd have paid me and begged me to come back with more. Between deliveries, I'd stop by Marissa's house. Marissa is the slightly older woman that he's dating. She's more glamorous than he is. We'd fool around, watch some TV, eat something, and then I'd have to go. "Why? What could you possibly have to do right now? Those newspapers won't roll themselves." It was like going off to war, an act, sure, but too dramatic for my taste. She'd grab a wad of my shirt, and I'd have to pull her along with me to the door, smiling and being serious about it at the same time. It was hard not to think about Rob, alone on his couch in his underwear, thumb and sack. Once Marissa kept giving me crap about it after I got out the door, and so I said, "You know what? After I leave, call your mom. It's not okay to give up on people." I also forgot. She doesn't get along with her mom. She slammed the door, but I was already down the sidewalk, figuring that this is one of those moments that tell you something. We'd make up or we wouldn't, and that'd be the end of it. Either way, I told myself I was fine with what I'd done. After 6 months with Marissa, I drove to Topeka to the mall where the white people used to go and bought a ring outright. With cash I thought the clerk might give me some flack for, but I guess he was used to such things. I carried the ring everywhere all the time. When I was making deals, I'd think about it tucked away in my left pants pocket. And when the door closed and when I was walking back to the car I used for deliveries, I'd reach in to make sure it was still there. Sometimes it felt like a ticking clock. I'd have to introduce Marissa to my parents, and both of us would have to answer their questions. What were we going to do with our lives? What are you going to be? I'd answered them plenty of times on my own, and it wasn't such a big deal. I'm going to be an astronaut or a baseball player, I'm not sure which. You deliver pizzas, my dad would say. My mom would chime in. You're too smart for this. You need a career. You've got to pick one. What are your skills? Talking, I'd say. Well, there you go. You should go into sales. That was beyond what my dad could abide. He'd slap his head and say, Jesus, anything but that. Why, she'd ask. Someone has to do it. While they debated the merits of sales, I fingered the ring in my pocket and thought about drugs. They were like cars. You tried to find that fine line, the moment where the trouble they'd give you was mostly in the future and not in the past. You never wanted to hang on too long. You didn't want to spend more on them than they were worth. I had about $30,000 saved up in cash that I'd stuffed in a sun tea jar and rolled under the front porch of the house I was renting. This was a sizable amount. I could make more, but how much more? For all our business acumen, Rob and I hadn't figured out a better system for what to do with the profits. He kept his money buried somewhere in his backyard. We'd talk about what to do with it. Buy cars, buy houses, leave the country and never come back. I'd have to come back, Rob said. Can you imagine me in England in some castle? I don't think all the Brits live in castles. You know what I mean. Or, I said, waving generally at the travesty of an abode where we found ourselves, you could do something about this. Do what, he asked, and for a moment I thought he was joking. The roof leaked in the bathroom, half the windows had long cracks running diagonally across the panes. One in the bedroom was broken out entirely and Rob had covered it in tinfoil, just like all the windows in the kitchen where he cooked. He squinted at me and stuck his hands in his underwear. He kept squinting and rubbed his balls. Fix up the house, upgrade from shithole to hovel. Why would I do that? Some things you just can't explain. I gave up. No reason, I said. Unlike me, he used our product. I told him it was unprofessional, and he said, you never eat Pizza Hut? Of course I did. Well, there. He'd gotten thin and edgy, had picked up a gun somewhere. He wanted me to get one too, and he was right. A drug dealer needs a gun like a car owner needs a mechanic. But whenever I held the pistol, it felt heavy and potent, as if it had already made its mind to go off. I worried about shooting myself in the foot. So when customers called on the phone, I made it clear that I was like the cashier at a convenience store. I didn't carry much cash or product. And in case that didn't work and they robbed me anyway, I made it clear that Rob was the heavy. He'll crack your eyeballs on your forehead like they're eggs, I said. Mostly I hoped that everyone would play nice. They won't play nice, Rob said over and over again, and I won't dig out their eyes, I'll just shoot them. What difference does it make, I asked. The point is that we don't want to shoot anybody. This is when he got pissed. It has nothing to do with wanting, he said. You have to do what you have to do. It was a pretty fundamental disagreement, and it wasn't going to be solved in one argument, probably ever. But he put up with me the latitude to give a friend. The truth was, he was just biding his time until the inevitable happened, and I quit. Sometimes I'd call in sick, and Rob would say, drug dealers don't get sick. Love sick, I'd say, and then I'd spend the evening with Marissa, talking and dreaming and naked. One morning I woke up to find her showered, dressed, and curling her hair in the mirror. Big plans? It was Sunday, she was going to church. Why, I asked, but this wasn't an argument she wanted to have. For some reason I did. Is this something your mom got you into? Is she going to be there? She didn't take the bait. You can come if you want. Then she left, and I realized that it really did matter to her if I came or not, so I ran home and got dressed. The choir was singing when I walked in, and the whole church got a good look at me stopping beside each row looking for Marissa. Afterward, people I knew by name only, bankers and doctors and other important Methodists, came up to us and said hello. The women smiled, and the men put their arms around Marissa. Been a while. We were worried about you, they said, staking their claim to her. They were her community. She was on her own in life, trying to make things on a small inheritance, and they weren't going to let anyone get in her way. And who is this? Oh, she said, just somebody I met. Do you think we'll be seeing him here again? She shrugged and bumped her shoulder into mine. You never know. That was on Sunday. On Monday, I went back to work. Rob was pissed. You know how much money we lost last night? You know how we just drove good customers into the arms of the competition? I said, God didn't mean for us to work every hour of every day. You've got to enjoy life. Rob said, you don't know shit about what God wants. I made a plan. When there was $35,000 in the jar, I'd quit. It'd be the start of summer, a good time for new beginnings. I wanted the change to be neat and tidy, so I started hanging out with Rob Moore. He'd go for a day without eating, and I'd say, "Don't get up, let me get the groceries. Let me get the toilet paper, really, it's no big deal." In a way, it was the right move, because if anyone had seen him, they might have asked around, "Is he okay? Is he sick?" He looked like a corpse. He was methily ill. His eyeballs were starting to stick out. When he looked at you, it was like he could see all the way around his body. He knew things, those eyes said. "Can't sneak anything past us." "This lady friend of yours," he said once, "when are you going to bring her around here? If there's going to be a wedding, shouldn't I meet her first?" I reached for the ring in my pocket to stop myself. He was sprawled out on the couch, no shirt, no pants, just his stained white underwear. "I know you're going to ask her," he said. "It's not a secret. You got that puppy dog look all the time. You're even going to church with her." He winked at me. "What? People talk. It's a wonder they don't walk up and pat your little puppy head, scratch your ears. Come on, bring her around." There was no good answer to this, so I didn't give one. He looked down at himself, held out his arms. "Afraid she'll like this too much?" Some nights I prayed for a delivery just so I could get out of there. We had our regulars, people who called like clockwork every night or every other night. They'd have a nice little routine set up, particular ways they'd rub their hands before they took out their money, a certain kind of music playing on the tape deck. Those were the good ones. Other times I'd get caught out to a place I'd never been. Once it was a competitor, another cook, and he opened the door and stuck a steak knife in my face and said, "You're not going to come around here anymore." This was early on. We were encroaching on his territory. I said, "Okay," stepped back, tossed the meth at him, and shut the door and ran. I kept looking back and he wasn't chasing, so I slowed down, gave it some real thought. "That guy," I said, or I thought, "he's probably not even for real. He probably just wanted some free drugs." So I slashed his tires, broke his windshield with a rock, bashed off his side view mirrors, cut his seats open, and gave them a good piss. He must have come out not long after that. Maybe he decided to hunt me down, I don't know. Wherever he was going, on his way there, the highway patrol pulled him over for driving a car that was all beat to hell. He was high, he had a gun without a license, and he went to jail. Sometimes I thought about him when I was figuring the ring in my pocket. I'd do some quick math, 3,000 to go, 2,800, 2,000. "Thank you," I started saying at the end of the delivery. "Be sure to call us again." Given my math, we had enough nice customers I could take a pass on the bad ones. One lady was particularly regular. Like clockwork, every Friday night she'd call and I'd come by her place. There were some soft boards on the porch and no doorbell. But if that's the worst a person can say about your place, you're doing okay. She always looked nice, recently showered, trim and put together. I wouldn't have been surprised if she was a first grade teacher. She just had that look, like my mom, but on meth. A weekend warrior. She didn't even need to call, her needs were understood. So one night I pulled up like usual and knocked on her door. It was late, and no lights were on except for one deep inside her house. In the moonlight filtering through the bare tree branches, you could just make out the car and the Pizza Hut sign on top. The door opened and I put on a smile. "Oh, hey, stranger." It was Marissa peering at me, then throwing the door open. Both of us looked at the box in my hands, and she gave me this funny look before yelling back into the house, "Mom, did you order a pizza?" On the way back down the hallway came the reply, "Oh shit." We're all set.